Hello everyone, my name is Jen. Welcome to my channel. This is my little corner of the internet where I show and tell all the things I've been getting up to in my craft room. So today is Saturday, December 29th, I think, 2023. So this will be my last Flosstube video of the year. I was hoping to get back before Christmas, but it was just too busy. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for your support over the year. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have a lot to talk about. So today is Flosstube plus stuff. I've been doing a ton of crafty things since we last chatted. So, maybe grab like a tea or something because this should be a while. So today I'm talking about all the makes that I've done basically from my last video, which I think was like 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas up until now. Yeah. I hope everybody has had a good holiday. We had a lovely time. It was the 4 of us are all home together, which is nice. We haven't been that busy. We usually never are. We just like to kind of hang out and not do too much. The weather's been really, really warm. There's no snow, so an odd year for sure, but at the same time that's been nice because last year was so bitterly cold. This is a nice change. Okay, but let's dive into the crafts because that's why you're here. So I have piles and piles of stuff all around. So today I have cross stitch to talk about and quilting and some sewing and a little bit of crochet. So I will start with the cross stitch as I usually do. Okay, so after I got all of the main things finished that I wanted to finish for Christmas, I've just been having so much fun just doing stuff. I've just been picking up projects that I had wanted to try. There was no pressure for these things, but I got a lot of stuff done, so it was really nice. So 2 of the things I finished, so these are ornaments, are these little sled ornaments. So I purchased the sleds and the pattern this summer. So it's a Foxwood Crossings, it's called Snowy Visitors. And I wanted this one because of the cardinals. So I stitched these 2. So we have that guy and then his little female companion. So there's the 2 together. These were fun. I don't love stitching on perforated paper, to be honest. But yeah, so I'm really pleased with these. I thought they turned out great. They stitch up very quickly. I only bought the 2 sleds. I don't know if I'm going to buy 2 more. Well, just because after I stitched the second one, I was kind of bored with this, and the other 2 are, you know, pretty similar. So I don't know, I might take a break. But I also noticed that the price of the sleds went up, like they were $8 when I bought them and now they're $10. So if I stitch the other 2, I might just stitch them on fabric and just turn them into ornaments. I'm not sure. But for now, I'm very pleased to have these guys. Those cardinals are my, I don't know, one of my favorite birds. So I thought those were really cute. And then I have... This is actually, I stitched this, I think, last year or the year before, but I fully finished it this year because I had wanted to do it on a plate, and I only this year found a plate. So this is a pattern from Jenny Vanderweel, Home Stitchness, and I can't remember, I think this was purchased when she used to have an Etsy store. I stitched it on green Aida and I used the Etoile for the poinsettias. And then I just mounted it on a piece of sticky board, and this is some trim, and there was a lot of swearing going on with my hot glue gun and trying to put all this together. But anyway, now it's together, so I can finally display this the way I wanted to. And that is it for fully finishes. So I was working on, I think I was working on December Quaker when we last chatted. So we have that. That's from the Heart Needle Art by Wendy. And I really enjoyed this. I don't know how I'm going to fully finish this. Right now I've just pinned it together because I do like it to just, like, if I had a frame for it or something, I would want it to be close to the stitching. I didn't use the call for, and I talked about that in my last one, but I really enjoyed doing this, and I did run out of one of the flosses. I can't remember which color now. And so I had sort of, excuse me, I had been wishing that I had stitched this on an off-white and not pure white, but I mean, now I don't care. So that was finished. I still don't know how I'm going to fully finish that guy. And then I worked on these little guys. So this was so much fun because this was a project that I just kind of spontaneously started and finished. So each of these took one night to do. These are free patterns. They're from Shannon Christine Designs. She put them out on her Instagram and in her Facebook page. So we have the red cup with a little gingerbread cookie. And then there's the green cup with the Christmas tree cookie. And it was just so much fun to not have these on a to-do list or a want to stitch list. I just picked them up and started stitching. So she came out with 12 free of these little mini patterns. And like I said, I stitched these in one evening, started like start to finish. But yeah, I didn't want to do 12 evenings. But those are so cute. So I'm going to just turn these into probably just little round ornaments. And there is another cup, one that's blue, and then there's some cookies and then some sweaters too. Yeah, so 2 fun starts and finishes, and this is on the 32 count Petit Point raw linen. Okay, and then I had to look at my notes. I had to make 2 pages of notes because I have done so much stuff. Okay, so this was a fun one. Now, somewhere in here I wrote down where this is from. This is from I believe a cross stitcher magazine, and it's pretty old. I think it's 2016, might even be 2013. And I had printed off the cover sheet because I have the digital copy of this magazine, but I can't find it. So I don't even know what this is called. I'm calling this Goose Quartet. Now, the original from the magazine was stitched on blue fabric, and all of the geese had blue bows, and it was very pretty, and that's originally how I wanted to do it. However, because it was Christmas, and I got thrown into a big nostalgia fit, and this was part of it. So here's just like a clue. There's a teaser for you. And then I just had to stitch something with geese. So this was my cross stitch version. So I just stitched the geese as charted, and then I just picked a red and a green to do the bows. So I want to finish this into a pillow, and I have this fabric. I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to stitch it into a pillow, and I'm going to put like a big ruffle on it because I got this huge nostalgia kick for 1980s things. But yeah, I'll talk about that in a bit. So that's my plan for this. I was hoping to have this done before I did a video, but obviously I didn't. So there's my little geese. And those are all my finishes. So what I am working on is, where is everything? Okay. So I don't know what this is called. This is a pattern from Box and Fox on Etsy, and this is what they gave me as a cover sheet. So there's X's on here, but there's, you know, you're not going to be able to figure anything out from here. So there's a series of these, and if you go to Box and Fox, I'm pretty sure this is under the Vintage Florals tab. So they have a series of these. They will have like a little village or some kind of a scene, and then a different seasonal flower. So I also have, I think, poppies and sunflowers, and I think I have the cornflowers. But I wanted to start this guy. And so I'm stitching this on a 28 count opalescent even weave. And this is where I got to, and I had stitched all the blue, and then I was stitching the yellow and realized I'd made a mistake in the blue, so I had to rip out all the blue, and now I'm just restarting that. I don't know if you can see that, but I mean, it's been fun. And yeah, so wherever there's white here, I'm not stitching that. It is charted to be stitched, but I'm not going to stitch that because I'm using the sparkle or the opalescent. I thought it would be pretty, so we'll see. I hope it doesn't look too unfinished, but I thought that the little sparkle there would be nice. And same with the roofs, the snow on the roofs. I don't know if I'll stitch that. I might just leave it, but we'll see. It might just look too unfinished if I do that. And this isn't a Christmas one. This was a, I wanted to do a new start for the solstice, and I thought it should be something wintry because I knew I wouldn't finish, and just something to carry me in when I do get bored of Christmas stuff. Although right now I feel like I'm never going to get bored of Christmas stuff, but who knows. So this is called Winter Sunset, and it's a pattern by Maria Brovko, and she is Cute Patterns by Maria on Etsy. And I just fell in love with these colors, all the blues and the lavenders. So this is a full coverage piece, but a lot of it is half stitches. So I'm stitching this on an Aida, and it's just a 16 count white Aida, and I didn't get too terribly far. Just doing the half stitches up there. So I put this one into Pattern Keeper, and I'm trying that out just to see how I like it. And yeah, just to try to keep myself in check. But there are a lot of blocks of color in this one, so it's pretty easy to keep your place. But I find I'm having trouble now doing two things at once. So even if it's just like stitching, watching TV, stitching, watching Flosstube, I find I'm making a lot more mistakes. So I'm gonna have to start just like stitching and listening to music, so there's nothing else to just grab my attention. I'm also working on nose Joyful. This is Blooming Bouquets. Yeah, number 3 from Jeanette Douglas. This is Joyful. I had hoped to be finished this, but I'm almost finished. And I had a lot of distractions and new starts. So this is where I am now. And I love this so much. I mean, really, I was thinking last night I should have done the poinsettias in a brighter red because they are, but I really like this. So these are all colors that I chose, just various overdyes from my own collection. The red I know is a Threadworks, and I only use the one floss. And the chart calls for 2 reds, but I just used one, and it's a Threadworks, but I can't remember which one. It goes from like a red to a burgundy. And let's see, you can see the white poinsettias in real life. I know they're getting blown out here. I changed the word I use the same gold that I'm using in the flower centers. And there is supposed to be a satin stitch border around the inside, but because I'm stitching this on Aida, I'm not really able to do that. And I actually kind of like just the way it is already. So all I have to do is just work down here, and then there are 2 white poinsettias here, and I'll be finished. So yeah, it'll be nice to have a Christmas finish for next year. And it's just one of what I hope to be many. So I did start a bunch of other things because I couldn't help myself. But what I decided to do with all of these next projects is I took us some time to just go over the charts and break them up into pieces. So that way, if I can just stitch little bits at a time over the course of the year, by Christmas, if I keep up with this, and there's nothing too taxing here, I should have these all finished. So this one is called Christmas Quilt in Cross Stitch, and it's by Vivienne Powers, and she's Vibsters on Etsy. This is what the finished one will look like. And I'm stitching mine on a 14 count Rustico Aida. So I broke this up into basically 12. They're 25 squares, so the goal would be to stitch 2 squares a month, and then there's 1 extra. So I've stitched 1 square already, and then next month I'll do, 2, and, hopefully I can stick with that. So this is very stitch heavy. This took me 2 or 3 evenings, I think. So if I give myself, 4 or 5 days for sure, I could get each of those finished. And so that's the first square. Now the coverage, because this is 14 count Aida, the coverage isn't that great, and I thought maybe I should use 3 strands. But I don't like using 3 strands, and I didn't have any 16 count Rustico or Beige Aida that was big enough, and I didn't want to use 18 count. But I think when the whole thing is finished and it's all together, it's going to look just fine. And I'll just try not to pull as hard in some places. But I think the colors are really pretty. She does a lovely job of putting colors together. So that is a start and an anticipated finish for next December. I also started Let It Snow. Now I don't have a cover sheet. This is from Tiny Modernist. It's on black. It says Let It Snow. This is as far as I got. I won't take a year to do this. And the reason I wanted to start this one was because I found this frame at the thrift store, and it had little things hanging here. But when this is finished, it will fit exactly in there. So that's why I wanted to get this one going. I think I bought this last year or 2 years ago. And then for my other year-long projects, okay, I also do not have a cover sheet for this one. This is called, what's this called? Wonderful Time of Year from Country Cottage Needleworks. And so I had only slated myself to stitch this part, but then I decided I would stitch this part too. So it goes by rows. You'll recognize it when I get further along. Yeah, so next month I'll do the next row and then, continue on. And I mean, really, like, I did this in one night. So there are parts that I've slated to do just over one month, but I could probably do a couple months at a time. But this is another project that I've been meaning to start forever, and I just didn't get around to it. But also because I had the polka dot linen out for the ornaments, I thought, well, I'll just start this one real quick. And then this next one, I started this, I think it was last year. So here's Woodland Tree Farm from Blue Ribbon Designs. I started, I think I had maybe these done last year. And this is not a big chart at all, but it's also not something that I want to sit down and just continuously work on. So I broke this one up into 12 parts. And so I finished stitching the first part, and then I moved on to the second part. And yeah, and it was great. So I stitched it, and then I was finished, so I could just put it down. And I have to tell you, this just does my Aries heart good, because I love to start new things, and well, I certainly like to finish things too, but I don't have that drive to continue through it all. So I've completed 2 parts that I wanted to. So I feel like I'm ahead of the game, sort of. But yes, so this should be done next. Well, this will be done next December too, as long as I can stay on it. So like, for instance, the next time, I'm just going to do, you know, this tree here. And then like this is its own section, and this is its own section. So really I can just do this in one evening, and it's great. So what I would like to do is, over the course of 1 week, is just work on all of these and then get those parts done so that they will be finished. And then the last one I started for my working at in 12 parts is Jingle Bell Cafe from Stitching with the Housewives. I would love to stitch this on black, but it's just so hard on my eyes, and I really have to... I would purposely not work on this because I wouldn't want to be working on the black. So I picked a blue, and this is an Aida that I dyed myself. The white does show up better in person than it does here, but it still doesn't show up as well as if it was on black, of course. But I am going to just stick with this. I'm using the Called For colors. I'm just going to stick it out and hope that by the end of it, it'll all look super fantastic. Yeah, so this part here is, I just have to finish the red on here and this up here, and then I'm done for, that's my January. I don't even have to pick this up until February. There we go. You can see that better. So, I mean, I'm hoping that plan works out. I'm full of great ideas, guys, but they don't always they don't always work out. So, yeah. So a lot of those, like as I just said, I plan to carry those through the year. I haven't made any official plans for 2024, specifically because if I do, I always break them. And if I had to commit like right now, I would say, well, I only want to stitch Christmas things, because I'm still very much in a Christmas frame of mind. But you know, in a couple weeks, I'm not going to want to do that. So I'm not making huge plans. I like watching other people's plans. I like making lists, and then I just don't follow through. It's like making the list is enough for me. This is my kind of January project bag of things that perhaps I'd like to do. So I wouldn't mind starting January Quaker, because I really liked doing the December Quaker, and I just have some random blue floss there. And I'm just going to stitch this on a white even weave because I've used up all of my opalescent even weave. So I thought that could be fun. Blue is always sort of a nice palette cleanser after all the reds and greens of Christmas. And here is another one from Box and Fox called Winter Landscape. I do not have cover page for this, so I'll just hold it back. It's a landscape. And I'm not going to stitch all of that gray. I have just cut out some gray fabric, but I thought this was quite pretty too. So I wouldn't mind starting that. And then I also want to join, it's a stitch along. Amanda from Alba Stitches is hosting it. I think it's called the Wee Tiny Nation Sal. So I have all these cute little kits that were given to me by somebody in my last hometown. And they're little thistle kits. So she just passed the stash. So I wouldn't mind starting one of these. So this is called the Ancient Thistle Lavender Sachet. So that could be fun. There's Victorian Thistles Pin Cushion. And none of these would take very long, so I don't have to totally commit like to something super long. This is just called Heather. And these are all little kits, so come through everything. And this is the bookmark kit. So I thought those might be fun to just join in with that stitch along. And it doesn't even start until January 25th. But I do think I would like to join that. Not, you know, and it's not a big sal that I would totally lose interest in. And I don't plan on stitching all of these little kits. I just plan on stitching one, and anything else would be a bonus. Yeah, so that's it for my cross stitch. I'm going to have an avalanche here. Okay, pardon me. Okay, so I did do some crochet. So I had been working on a cushion from this book. This is a lovely book. And the one I chose was the mistletoe pillow. I started this quite a while ago because it's all crochet. Like, you know, it's the front and back. You make a big long rectangle and fold it over. So this is the one that I had wanted to start, but I didn't want to do the red on the side. So I got the Tweety yarn, and this took, I can't remember what this is called, but it did take, it's like a Red Heart Super Saver or something, and it did take more than one skein, just so you know. So here's my finished pillow. So I got the Tweety yarn and the mistletoe. I did less bract than called for, but I thought that this looked just fine. And I thought it would actually be really cute to do, put little jingle bells here, but because it's a cushion and if you leaned back on it, it would be super uncomfortable. Whereas at least these are crochet, they can just push back. This, I just stitched this on so that I would have some red, but then I wanted to do a green. So this was a green I had left over from the Christmas blanket I made last year. And then the back is just like an envelope style. Now, next time I wouldn't do this, I think, because it just felt like this took forever to make this big rectangle. So I'm not sure what I would do. Maybe just make square? I'm not sure. Anyway, I got that finished. I was very pleased about that. And it just has an insert inside, so I can take it out and it'll store flat with all my other Christmas blankets and things. So yeah, I really like that. I thought the instructions were very good. This is a Kate Eastwood book. Well, and I've only made the one thing from here, but it turned out very well. I had no problems with it. So that's all good. And the only other thing I made, well, I did make socks for my daughter for Christmas. She got crocheted socks. But for me, and this is just another kind of fun thing that I said, hey, you'd really like to have that. And I had a day to do something fun. So I made this little granny square cushion. I just had these little skeins of yarn, and this pattern, this might be from the Secret Yarnery. I can't remember. Yes, it's Secret Yarnery, and it's the poinsettia pattern. So I just have this sitting by my sewing machine, and it's just got a little, it's just a regular granny square on the back. And then I made some little pins, so this has just been sitting by my sewing machine. It is so cute, and I just love this. I would love to make a bunch more of these little granny square cushions because they're fun. So yeah, that was it for my crochet. I did want to make a little amigurumi Grinch, but I just didn't get around to it this year. But that's okay. Okay, so sewing. I have done quite a bit of sewing, which is nice because I love sewing. So the first thing I made, and this really kind of kicked off my, I was really into Christmas this year. Not that I'm usually not into Christmas, but this year I was really into Christmas. I felt like I kind of dropped the ball in terms of gifts, but anyway, the rest of it I think turned out okay. So I wanted a Christmas apron because I bought myself a new Christmas cookbook. And I baked so much this year, and I was planning to bake so much that I wanted a Christmas apron. And I made the apron, and then I baked and baked and baked. And there are only 4 of us, and it's almost all gone. But I don't know. It was good. We've been well fed. So my apron, I found a vintage tablecloth at the thrift store, one of those printed ones, and you know, it was pretty stained because it's quite old, but there was one section of it that I thought I could cut that up and make an apron. So I just took my regular apron and I laid it out and I cut around. And so here's my apron. Like, look at the print on there. Like, it's just beautiful. So we've got the Christmas roses, and this is the bottom. So this part here, this was the border on the whole tablecloth. So I still have lots of this left. It's just a lot of it's, you know, stained where the white part is. And then where I did the fold, I had to just put some rickrack on there because why not? So I love this so much. I don't know, this is just so festive. And it's been all about the festive for me this year. And thrifting. I did so much thrifting for Christmas this year. It's been great. But I did pretty much thrift everything when it was half off. So okay, there's my Christmas apron, in which I did all of my baking. So that was the first Christmas project. The next thing I did was this table runner. So I received this kit last year in my swap with Debbie, the Canadian crocheter. We've been doing a Christmas swap for what, 3, 4, I don't know, 5 years. So Debbie gifted me this last year and I thought I should make it this year. So I did, I put it together. And it's so pretty. So these were all the fabrics in the kit, except for the backing, which is mine. But it's just a cute little, you know, just a short little guy, but very festive. And then I didn't put batting in it. I just put a piece of flannel on the back, and I did quilt it, but I find kind of with the small things that you put on the table, they can, I don't know, just be too bumpy. Like, things don't sit right on them. So yeah, I like this. You know what I noticed? That with a lot of kits, like Christmas, with Christmas fabric in, there's always black fabric. And I think they do that on purpose to try to get rid of it. So I don't love a like black fabric in with my Christmas stuff, but this was okay because this was like just a little bit. But my husband gave me a kit last year and it has so much black and silver fabric in it. It's really like I'm going to have to switch it out. But I think they do that on purpose. But anyway, despite the black in there, which isn't so bad, I like it. I don't know. I just feel like it goes against the reds and the greens for some reason. So we did that. And then, so my next project is a swap gift from this year. So Debbie gave me this. It's called the House Hippo Kit, and it's a felt kit. And I thought, well, this is really cute. And of course, the whole time I was making it, I was singing that song, I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. And then Debbie said something about the house hippo and nostalgia, and I had no clue what she was talking about. So she sent me a link, and then I vaguely remembered there used to be these commercials about a house hippo. I think it was put out by Concerned Children's Advertisers, And it was basically, you know, just because you see it on TV doesn't mean it's real. So anyway, my kids know about the house hippo. So this was a little kit, and this was fun. Everything came in the kit, like even the needle. So I made the hippo. I didn't make the potato chips though. But here's my little hippo. So look how cute he is. Oh, and he's got a spot there. Sorry, that's my... I poked my finger with the needle. But look at his eyes. I love how the eyes turned out. And I think he turned out great. He's so cute. So I did this, I stitched this together in an evening and then stuffed him. So that was a lot of fun. And his cute little ears. But yeah, it was a very good kit. So it's by Rita Van Tassel Studio. And she does have an Etsy shop. And I think she's actually Canadian too. But yes, I do, yeah, I'd recommend these kits. They came with everything except the stuffing. And I thought it was going to be complicated because of the eyes, but they were very, very good instructions. So yeah, love him. And then I wanted to make some more felt things. And so I wanted to make a goose. Because like I said, I got obsessed, absolutely obsessed with this. So I found a pattern. This is Christmas Goose Felt Ornament from Bustle and Sew. If you sign up for their newsletter, you get this pattern for free. So I got the pattern, and this was my first one. So I made him with the little scarf. Isn't he cute? Look how cute he is. I'm going to block my face. Look how cute he is. Also very easy to do. You just use scraps of your wool. But when I was making him, I was thinking, I really want a goose with a wreath of something around his neck. So I made another goose. And then I made this little wreath with scraps out of felt. Oh my god, he's so cute. I just love him so much. And I can't tell you how fabulous they look on the Christmas tree. And like I said to my husband, I could make a ton of these because I love them so much, but I don't have any white felt left. So I think a trip to the store where I can buy real wool felt is in order because I just love these so much. So then, like I said, I was just kicked into an 80s nostalgia kick. And I said to my husband, I want to go to the thrift store and I want to get a 1980s mug with a goose on it. So we went, because I remember last year I had seen a bunch and I was telling my daughter about the 80s goose and how it was on everything. So we went to the thrift store and I was sure I would find something. And I think we probably looked through about 300 mugs and there was no goose mug. So we went to another thrift store and we looked through probably 150 mugs and didn't find anything. And I looked down and there it was. And so that was this one that I got. And I've just been obsessed. Obsessed. And then that's why I made the goose cross stitch. And I wanted to make everything with a goose. So I found this pillow, which will get made for next Christmas. And this is a free pattern, and it's on the Tilda, I think it's Tilda and Friends website. So look at this. Isn't that fantastic? So I'm hoping to cut out the fabric for the goose today or tomorrow. And then actually, like, I'm kind of hoping that I can find like some 1980s green fabric at the thrift store. Every once in a while it does pop up and you pretty much recognize it when you see it, because I thought, well, wouldn't that be fun? But I just love that so much. So I'd like to do it with the green on the back and then a nice red bow. And what I could do to back it is I did find some fabric at the thrift store. I'm pretty sure this is from the 80s, and this is not, well, even if it's not from the 80s, it reminds me of it. It's not 100% cotton, but I could put this on the back. Yeah, so I have been on the 80s nostalgia kick. So I picked up this, and then I don't know if this is 80s because I know they made these panels well up into the 90s and I don't know, 2000s, I guess. But I found this. So it's just a series of stars that you cut out and stuff and stack together, and then you put them on here. It's just one of those panels. So I'd like to make that. And stuff like this totally reminds me of one of my aunts. I picked this up. Like, hello. I think this was probably one of those panel kits too. And I don't know how old this is, but I figured it's probably pretty dusty. So I wanted to put it in the sink and just to, you know, with a little bit of detergent and wash it off. And I put it in the sink and all of a sudden the water turned pink. This stuff is not color fast. And so all this white was pink. And then when I pulled it out of the water, the wreath weighed about 20 pounds because it was just full. So what I ended up doing to fix it, now there's a little bit of bleeding here, but the reason, so this is not 100% cotton fabric, which is kind of what saved me, because it didn't just absorb the red dye right away. What I ended up doing was putting this in the washing machine on cold, on like delicate or hand wash, with about 4 or 5 color catchers, and it just basically rinsed it and then spun it dry enough that I could lay it out, and it wasn't, you know, 20 pounds. And there was just a little bit of bleeding there, but not too bad. And the color catchers are now just a hot pink, so, but it feels clean now. So yeah, I bought this. And I've been picking up all of those like craft books that were published in the 80s. And I don't know how much of this stuff I'm going to be making, but I've been getting so much joy just like going through these and looking at them. So, I don't know, that's okay. And I bought this, which I'll probably keep ornaments in, and I got this. So there are 3 of these. My mother had these. And probably a lot of you or your mothers did as well. I'm not going to go and collect all the geese from the 80s, and it's mostly just the Christmas ones that I like, but I don't know, it was fun. I had a great time looking for this stuff. So that was like part of my Christmas fun this year. Yeah, I do get a little obsessed about things. My daughter calls it, what is it? Is it hyperfixation disorder or something? And yes, I definitely do that. Okay, so quilting. This was my Christmas quilt this year. I started the tree blocks last year. This is called Peppermint Forest, and it's a pattern from Amanda Niederhauser of Jedi Craft Girl, and this is a free pattern on her blog. So it was for a table runner, but she gives you the layout for a quilt, and that's what I did. I collected the fabrics on one of my trips to Ottawa with friends, so I have some nice fabric store memories. So I started it last year, and when I got the box out this year, because I didn't want to finish it last year, I was very pleased to see that I had finished all of the tree blocks. So all I had to do this year were the peppermint blocks and put it together, and the border, which is just, you know, scrappy tiny border. And I love it. I love the colors. It's a square, which isn't ideal, but anyway, it works. So when I was putting it together, I was thinking, gosh, I've really come a long way in my quilting skills. But, you know, I've been sewing a lot of quilts the last couple of years. So I thought, you know, that's good. Like, that's so nice to see, because I still don't really consider myself a quilter because I don't think I'm that good. So yeah, put everything together and I loved it. And then when I was quilting it on my machine and I was quilting it in a diagonal, so then I'm looking at the quilt from different angles and I'm finding all these points that don't match up and points that are cut off and stuff like that. So I'm really not so good, but I get a lot of joy out of sewing. It is really one of my most favorite things to do. And I am not going to beat myself up about it because I love it so much, and the quilting police aren't going to come to my house anytime soon. Maybe for the center block, I don't know if you can see it. There's a mark. Ooh, right here. There's a black mark because apparently I left an uncapped black pen in the box with the blocks over the winter, and it touched the quilt block. And then I ended up putting it right in the center of the quilt. So anyway, a real quilter wouldn't do that. But I am so pleased with that. I feel like this is one of the, I don't want to say more complicated, but more involved quilts that I've done. But I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I got that finished just before, well, I don't know, a week and a half before Christmas this year. So it was able to be on the bed. It wasn't just put on there Christmas Eve. So very pleased with that. Yeah. But that wasn't the only quilt that I made. I also made a rag quilt. Okay, I don't want to forget about this one. So I use flannel sheets for the back of my Christmas quilts, and over the past couple years I've accumulated a lot of extra pieces, and then of course you always accumulate a lot of extra batting. And I was going through my Christmas fabric and I found these quilt blocks that I had made a number of years ago, and I think there's 15 or 16, and the reason I didn't use them was because I cut them too short. So they've been sitting in the Christmas fabric bin, and I was thinking, well, I don't know, that's like 8 pot holders to make, and I don't want to do that. So I thought I would put them, make a scrappy rag quilt. And so I did. So this is all leftovers. It's leftover batting, it's leftover quilt blocks, it's leftover flannel backing. So I did with the pine. Okay, I'll stand up. I have so much stuff around me. I don't want to knock something over. So I have leftover. This is what it looks like. Can you see that? So it's a square. So we have the pine cone there, and then the back is just this fabric. So also left over from quilts. So it was like a bonus quilt because everything was left over. Because it's a rag quilt, it's quilt as you go. So when I was finished, I mean for the most part I was finished, I don't enjoy snipping, but whatever. I have a pair of spring-loaded scissors, but you know what I find actually works better are just my little, like these embroidery scissors. They work better. And one thing I did do was I had a strip of this fabric and I folded it, or I stitched it on and folded it. I stitched it on like right sides together and then folded it back and ironed it and snipped it. So it's almost like a ruffle on the back, if that makes any sense. But everything else is just the normal stuff. So yeah, I'm pleased with that because I used up a lot of all of those little extra pieces and flannel pieces that otherwise I wouldn't know what to do with. And I mean, I had enough that it looks, you know, pretty cohesive, so that's all right. The only kind of snafu was I didn't think I had enough of this fabric to do the corner one, so I had to do the plaid, and then of course after I got everything cut out and put together, I found another piece of this that would have worked, but anyway, by then it was done. So this is great for watching TV, snuggling under. And one more quilted project, and that is, oh, it's a wall hanging. So I don't have a Christmas village, I have a church village. I have been collecting the ceramic churches for quite some time. And so I have them all together, and when I saw this pattern last year, I thought this would be perfect to hang over my little church village. So Oh Holy Night by Jen Daily Quilts. She has an Etsy shop, and I think she has a sale going on right now because I did buy one of her pillows. Okay, so I saw this last year, and it's been in my wish list forever, and then I found out that it was foundation paper piecing, which I do not love. So I took it out of my wish list, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I finally just picked it up and said, no, I'm going to make it. Then I thought, well, I can't make it this year because I don't have a good selection of blues, but my lovely friend Debbie to the rescue happened to have a whole bunch of blue fabric that she kindly sent to me. So I was able to get a nice variety. And here is my little church. Yeah. So you just, the instructions are very good. So foundation paper piecing, I would say, is right up there with knitting in terms of crafts that I dislike. I still don't like it, but I needed to do it for this quilt. Like, there was no getting around it. Like, I did do the stars. I pieced those like a regular quilt, and you see how tiny those are? They kind of almost did me in. So I thought, no, I'll just do it for the rest of it. So it's kind of hard to see, but like, you know, down here you have to, that's blown out. There we go. So down here you need the light fabrics and everything. But I did it, and I think it looks okay. It's actually backwards to what it's supposed to be, but I just don't read instructions well. As for quilting, she had suggested just doing other things, but I thought I'm just going to do like little swirls across to sort of be like wind or snow or something. But overall, I'm very, very pleased with it. See better? No. I am very pleased with it. I'm going to try my hardest not to do any paper piecing after this because I don't like it. But yeah, there we have that. And just hold on. Okay. Yeah, so that was it. I've done a lot. As for quilting for plans, there are a couple quilts that I do want to make this year, but I have to narrow it down. So we'll see. One thing I do want to start is I have this pattern from the pattern basket, and it's called Cardinals. Now, I probably bit off more than I can chew for this one, but we'll see. So I had originally planned on making the smaller version, which I think is 20 blocks, but I may just only even make maybe like 9 or something, depending how it goes, and just do a wall hanging. And I want to use this, layer cake. So we have the nice reds in there. Yeah, so I want to do that. And then I will make some other quilts this year. Well, I hope to, but I just kind of want to narrow it down. This year promises to have a lot of life changes, so I have to adjust what the things that I want to do with what I will be able to do. Let's see. The last crafty thing that I'd like to start is every year I always buy these bead kits for ornaments so that my daughter and I can make them after Christmas, and then we never do. You know, when she has the time out from school or from work, she just likes to do her own thing, and I totally get that. But now I have 3 years worth of bead kits, so this year I'm going to start them whether she is going to join me or not. So I have these snowflakes, which that were pretty. And last year I bought these angels, and I thought those were very pretty. And these are just nice for ornaments, and sometimes I'll use them just on top of gifts. And then this year I purchased the candles with the wreaths on the bottom. So that's kind of in the plans for the next couple of days. And also to start all the other things and to finish all the things and, you know, to get organized and to get fit. And yeah, all your typical resolutions. So I'm going to end it today because this has been an hour long. So thank you for indulging me and watching my Christmas makes. I will be back sometime in January. Until then, thank you so much for coming by. I hope you have a wonderful month. I hope you have a healthy and prosperous new year. And we'll talk again. Happy days, friends.